surveying us all. My brother-in-law, Tad, opened his mouth. These shares and the $10 million from Kathy's inheritance will go to the eldest daughter, my wife. Hearing those words, I doubted my own ears. Tad. My sister stood up and faced Tad. What's the matter? You have the right to receive it, don't you? Don't worry, Kathy would be pleased too. Remember, she helped out with the debt repayment before, right? However, that's in normal circumstances, but in your case, it's slightly different, isn't it, right, Michael? Jess. Tad, sorry for the late introduction, but this lawyer, David here, is the executor of Mom's will. The executor of the will. Tad looked at me and the lawyer with a puzzled expression. It's something Mom asked me to do before she passed away. Yes, I have the responsibility to execute the contents of the deceased's will. What does the will say? Don't tell me it says not to let the eldest daughter inherit anything, Tad said with a thin smile. Well, my name is Michael. Approaching my late 50s, I'm entering the latter half of my life. My daughters have grown up and find it more enjoyable to go out with their friends. On weekends, I've started to relax more with just my wife. One sunny afternoon, we were on the terrace, drinking coffee after a meal. The phone rang, and my wife stood up saying, "Yes, yes." The moment she heard the name of the caller, her expression stiffened. Her voice trembled as she responded, clearly disturbed. I stood up to go to her, but then the call ended. Kathy has passed away. Though I knew she didn't have much time left, I couldn't hide my shock at the news. Mom had been hospitalized for a long time. When was the last time we talked? Recently, she had rarely regained consciousness, and the doctor had told us to be prepared. She was diagnosed with her illness and hospitalized about 6 months ago. My wife and I had been taking care of her. Mom, having been widowed early, had raised me single-handedly, so I was the only one she could rely on. I wished I had been more attentive. I wish I had talked more about various things with my mother. Hearing the news of her death brought waves of sadness and regret, but the image of my mother that came to mind was always smiling. As a timid child, I used to come home from school being bullied, and Mom, a strong-willed woman, would get angry and confront the bullies at their homes. The exact opposite of me, who disliked conflicts, but looking at me, Mom would always say with a smile, "You are just like your father." I was often saved by my mother's strength, and even as an adult, she remained an imposing figure in my life. Mom was strict and strong, but she raised me with great love. Now that I have my own family, I understand how tough it was for her to do it all alone. I had an older sister, Emily, but she had left home a long time ago and we had lost touch. However, I needed to somehow contact her to inform her of Mom's death. First, I called Mom's lawyer. After the hectic days of funeral preparations ended, Mom's ashes were brought back to our home. That day, relatives paid a condolence visit to Mom, who had returned home. Just as the lawyer who had been taking care of Mom arrived, we were about to discuss the will. The doorbell rang. My wife went to the door, but before she could open it, a loud, hoarse voice called out, "Excuse the intrusion," accompanied by impolite, heavy footsteps. "Oh, everyone's here." The visitor in the living room was a man. "Planning the inheritance behind our backs, are you, Tad?" I couldn't hide my surprise at the sudden appearance of my brother-in-law. He sat down heavily on a nearby sofa, as if it was his own house. Behind the boastful Tad, Emily appeared timidly. "Michael, it's been a long time." My sister, whom I hadn't seen in over a decade, had changed so much that she was almost unrecognizable. Once gentle and known for her bright smile, she now looked lifeless, with poor complexion and appeared much older than her actual age. Seeing my sister like this, I was shaken. "Sis, you came. Thank you for letting me know," Sorry I couldn't make it to the funeral." Saying this, Emily looked down, seemingly apologetic. I had many things I wanted to ask, but words were hard to find after not seeing her for 10 years. "Anyway, it's a shame about Kathy. She left quite a sum, didn't she? The stocks must have done well too, right?" Tad said to me with a sleazy grin. "How can you say that?" When scolded by my sister, Tad glared at her. "What? It's the truth, isn't it? Especially since you never did a thing to show parental gratitude. Poor thing." "That's because you." Emily seemed about to retort, but quickly closed her mouth. Tad laughed through his nose and said, "Come on, light an incense stick at least. Sorry for being a disobedient daughter." Emily, holding back something, tightly closed her mouth and sat down in front of Mom's ashes. Mom's family was originally wealthy. When she married Dad, her parents opposed it, and she was almost estranged from her family. After Dad died, she refused financial assistance from her family and raised us on her own. But when Mom's parents passed away, a huge inheritance came to her, being an only child. Stocks and cash totaled to about $10 million. "Having it now is somewhat pointless," Mom used to say. "There's no harm in having it. You should use it however you like, Mom," I told her. I was already married and supporting myself, and Emily had left home a long time ago. Emily, though, Mom was worried about my sister. It had been a long time since Emily got married. Initially, we kept in touch, but there had been no word from her in recent years. She stopped visiting even during the holidays. "If something happens to me, take care of Emily. Siblings should help each other." "Yeah, I understand." But the contact details I had for my sister were no longer valid, and I had no idea where she was or what she was doing. Mom's words had always left me concerned about my sister, Emily. After reuniting with her after such a long time and with so much to catch up on, it seemed now wasn't the right moment. "Mom," muttering, Emily had been joining her hands for a long time when Tad, with an exaggerated sigh, said to her, "How long are you going to stay absorbed in this?" He seemed to have no intention of joining his hands, lounging on the sofa instead. "What are you doing here all of a sudden?" My wife, seemingly running out of patience, asked Tad. Tad's attitude had probably been irking her for a while. "What? You're talking to me like that?" Tad said and glared at her. My wife looked like she wanted to say something, frowning. "Well, never mind. Are all the relatives here?" Surveying us all, Tad opened his mouth. "These shares and Kathy's inheritance of $10 million will go to the eldest daughter, my wife." Hearing those words, I doubted my own ears. "Tad." Emily stood up to face Tad. "What's wrong? You have the right to receive it, don't you? Don't worry, Kathy would be happy about it. Didn't she help out with the debt repayment before? The agreement was different. You said that was the end of it when she arranged the money. Tons of money is there, so a little bit should be fine. A senile old woman didn't need that much money." I grimaced at the horrible things he said about Mom. Emily, looking like she might cry, shouted, "Stop it. I don't deserve a single penny. But, you know, as the eldest daughter, you have the right to inherit, right, lawyer?" Tad said with a sleazy smile. "Yes, usually, siblings inherit when a parent dies. See, as the eldest, you have to inherit. Be thankful for the $10 million. $10 million. Tad laughed with a vulgar snigger. "However, that's in normal cases, but in your case, it's a bit different, isn't it, right, Michael?" "Yes, Tad, sorry for the late introduction, but this lawyer, David, is the executor of Mom's will." "The executor of the will?" Tad looked at me and David with a puzzled expression. "Mom asked me to do it before she passed away." "Yes, I have the responsibility to execute the contents of the deceased's will." "What's in the will? It doesn't say to not let the eldest daughter inherit, does it?" Tad said with a thin smile. Yes, she's excluded from the inheritance, so that seems to be the case. At the dumbfounded expression on Tad's face, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Soon, the other relatives in the room also started laughing. What does that mean? Tad, confused, confronted the lawyer. Disinheritance means if there's serious misconduct by the designated heir, they can be stripped of their right to inherit. Stripped. Tad looked pale as he stared at the lawyer. Oh, what a pity, my wife mockingly said to Tad, almost as if returning the favor. Seeing this, the relatives all laughed together. By the way, if you are disinherited, you also can't receive the reserved portion, the minimum inheritance right. Hearing this, Tad turned to Emily with an almost aggressive tone. Hey, did you know about this? I don't know. We haven't been in touch for a long time, Emily exclaimed. That's impossible. You, Tad, had a large debt paid off by the deceased during her lifetime, said David, causing Tad's gaze to shift uneasily. She did it on her own. What, that was you who forced? Shut up, Tad yelled, causing Emily to flinch. Damn it, I was tricked. I married her thinking her family was rich. Such a way to speak. Emily was shocked by Tad's words. Tad's anger, believing he was entitled to the inheritance, seemed to be directed entirely at Emily. Damn it, everyone's making a fool of me. In frustration, Tad kicked a nearby chair, and Emily shrank back in fear. Watching Emily, I remembered Mom's words. I had to do what I was supposed to do. I needed to convey Mom's feelings properly to Emily. Sis, I said, placing my hand on Emily's shoulder. Her frame felt much smaller than when I last saw her. Mom always said, help each other as siblings. I had first heard about Mom excluding Emily from the inheritance when Mom's hospitalization was decided. When I asked why, Mom said she had concerns. When she heard about Emily's large debt, she thought Emily's behavior was strange. Given Emily's serious nature, getting into debt was an abnormal situation for our family. But Mom didn't ask for reasons. She simply paid off the debt without asking anything. However, after that, Emily became unreachable. Mom tried to contact her, but couldn't get through. It was the same with the contact details I had. Mom was always worried that something might have happened to Emily. Both of you didn't take after me, Mom said, looking at me with kind eyes. Remember, when Emily was in elementary school, once, Emily's return from school was delayed, worrying Mom and me, so we went looking for her. We found her alone in a dark park, crying, "The cat won't get off my lap." When I asked why she didn't move it, she said, "But then I'd wake it up, and I just couldn't argue with that." She waited there, missing dinner, until the cat woke up. I would have moved it no matter what. Unbelievable. Mom laughed. But then she grew contemplative. She's too kind. Mom's worry seemed to be rooted there. Is she having trouble with her husband? Well, if she's happy and choosing to be with him, that's fine. But if she's forcing herself, Mom seemed to have a plan. If it's just about money, he will surely come after my inheritance, saying, as the eldest daughter, she has the right to inherit. So, Tad will say that's why you're disinheriting. Won't Emily be shocked? I said that at the time, but in the end, things turned out just as Mom had predicted. Indeed, mothers are incredible. When I die, tell her, I want to help Emily, Mom said, seeming to have made up her mind. Just saying that, will she understand? She's smart, she'll be fine. Siblings should help each other, please, Michael. I agreed with Mom's thoughts, and that brings us to today. After hearing my story, Emily covered her face with her hands. Mom was always worried about you, Emily. Emily knelt in front of Mom's ashes, crying. Meanwhile, Tad was trembling with anger after hearing the story. What's this about siblings helping each other? Not giving me a penny. If you wanted to help, you should have given me the money. That's not it, Tad, Emily said, her expression different from before. She faced him squarely, with a firm attitude. What? You're the eldest daughter and you can't inherit. Aren't you upset? Everything's going to this brother of yours. Yes, I don't need the inheritance. I couldn't do anything for Mom. David, regarding the inheritance, I have nothing to say, but I have one request. What is it? Emily spoke with a clear, determined gaze. I would like to discuss filing for divorce. What are you talking about now? Tad was flustered by Emily's sudden declaration. I should have made up my mind when you had the debt paid off. I no longer have any inheritance to claim. If it's just the money you want, please divorce me. Emily, do you know how much I've done for you? Tad said, approaching Emily menacingly. Then, Emily said to him, thank you for everything until now. As Emily said resolutely, Tad looked down on her with cold eyes. Right, if I can get the inheritance, there's no point in being with you. A penniless old woman, I don't need you. Marrying you was a mistake. Emily didn't respond to Tad's abusive words. Witnessing this, David spoke up. Emily, about the divorce, does your husband always behave violently like this? I'm not sure if it's violent, but Emily seemed to be deep in thought. Does your husband often blame or criticize your actions? Yes, but that's because I don't understand him well enough. Emily, for some reason, seemed to defend Tad. Her expression was one of slight agitation. To me, it was clear that Tad was selfishly attacking her. And it wasn't just apparent to me. All the relatives present could see this fact clearly. I felt like I understood what Mom had been worried about. If you can't have an equal conversation, or if you're always afraid of your husband's words and actions, that's already a form of violence, David said. At his words, Tad became furious. What? Violence? Nonsense, you phony lawyer. Emily looked back and forth between the shouting Tad and David, her eyes showing determination. Seemingly understanding Emily's heart, David continued without paying attention to Tad's words. All of us here are witnesses to this. It's not a recording, but if you have a diary or something that details these violent behaviors, that would be helpful. I have a diary. There are days when I've written in detail. Good. Then we'll talk more about the divorce mediation later. Could you come to my office? David said, handing Emily his business card. Thank you, I appreciate your help, Emily replied, and then she turned to resume the conversation, as if Tad was no longer of any concern to her. In the midst of the exchange between Emily and David, Tad tried to intervene but was unable to stop them. Hey, don't joke around. I did everything thinking of you. Are you repaying kindness with ingratitude? Tad raged. Emily, with a resolute attitude, replied to him. Please be quiet for a moment. I've decided not to give in to you anymore. Months later, Emily and Tad's divorce was finalized. Emily gathered evidence and bravely confronted Tad. Though it might have taken longer if Tad hadn't agreed to the divorce, fortunately, he quickly withdrew. Emily was astounded. He really just wanted the money. Tad paid alimony to Emily and left the house they lived in. Emily, already living elsewhere, would likely never see Tad again. The last time she saw Tad was at the mediation, where he apparently said nothing to her, mindful of the judge's impression. The once domineering man had become meek as a lamb, making Emily wonder what she had been afraid of. Finally, I could tell Emily the truth about the bequest. A bequest means that even non-heirs can receive property. In other words, I could share Mom's estate, which I had inherited, with Emily. This was also Mom's intention, which I had heard during her lifetime. I was waiting for Emily's divorce to be finalized. This way, Tad wouldn't get a penny, and I could give Mom's inheritance to Emily. It was a farewell gift for her new life. Such, I don't deserve that. Emily was surprised and confused by my sudden offer. Mom told me to do it. We can't ignore the wishes of the deceased. She wanted siblings to help each other, I said with a smile. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes as she said, "Thank you." Then, she turned towards the altar and prayed. "Mom, thank you. I'm sorry for worrying you." I looked at the photo of Mom on the altar. She had a bright, cheerful smile. It seemed as if she was saying, "I'm glad. Welcome, and thank you for coming. Emily, congratulations on the opening. Congratulations on your new cafe." Today was the opening day of the cafe Emily had started. My wife and I brought a gift to celebrate the opening. The stylish and serene cafe was already bustling with customers. Emily used part of Mom's inheritance to start the cafe, something she had dreamt of for a long time. Post-divorce, she wanted to try pursuing her long-held dream. Emily's demeanor was lively and cheerful as she served customers. It was like the Emily of the past had returned. "It's a nice place. It feels comforting," I said. "Thank you. Hey Michael, remember that painting?" Emily pointed. I looked where she indicated, seeing a framed painting. That was in Mom's room. It was a favorite painting of Mom's that Emily and I often looked at in our childhood. Though not very expensive, Mom had always treasured and kept it. "Yes, I got Mom's favorite painting to display here." Nostalgic. I think Mom would be happy. Standing next to Emily, looking at the painting, I felt as if we had time traveled back to our childhood. Our eyes met as she smiled beside me. Emily's eyes no longer held the darkness they did on that day. "Something on your mind?" "No, just thinking maybe I should start something new too." "Oh, that would be wonderful." Seeing Emily's bright smile, I silently spoke to Mom in my heart. "It's okay now." The cafe doorbell chimed again as another customer walked in. A refreshing breeze swept through the cafe. Emily's bright voice echoed, and I squinted in the dazzling sunlight.